What's up, everybody? Today, we're going to be educating you on whether or not it makes sense for you to do a SEMA when you refinance. This is specifically for New York City refinances. Mortgage tax is very expensive. It can be very expensive. And if you already paid the tax, it's worth looking into to see if you can get a credit. So first, we're going to start off with, what is a SEMA? A SEMA is a consolidation and extension of mortgage assignment. So we are going to attempt to reassign your current mortgage tax already paid into your refinance to save you potentially over $10,000, definitely multiple thousands of dollars. So how do you know if you qualify for a SEMA? That's a really good question. The first thing you need to do is check your current mortgage statement, all right, and make sure your property address and the property address you're refinancing, okay, fall into a New York City demographic. This property happens to be in the Bronx, New York, with a current mortgage balance of $300 and let's call it $68,000. So when you first buy a property and take out a mortgage, you're required to pay mortgage tax. Now, what is mortgage tax? It's a phantom tax that New York State and New York City implemented in order to cover some of their shortfall well over a decade ago. And they knew everyone was going to keep buying property, so they figured tax it, people are still going to buy it. So now you have people that are paying mortgage tax when they don't need to on refinances simply because they're lazy and they don't know about this, and loan officers don't care to tell you this. So my main focus is to make sure you save money. That's my main focus. I don't care about anything else. If we're going to do your deal, we're going to do it right, and we're going to save you the maximum amount of money. So as we see here, the mortgage recording tax requires purchasers to pay 1.8% on mortgage amounts under $500,000 and 1.925% mortgage amounts above $500,000 in New York City. This includes the recording tax for both New York City and New York State. New York State imposes a mortgage tax of 0.5%. So let's just take 1.8% times $368,000. So my client would essentially be paying New York State a new tax of $66.24. So if he wants to refinance, he's going to be paying New York State $6,624. Now, how do you get rid of that? It's probably what you're thinking. It's a good question. So when you go back to the mortgage statement, you need to see who the current mortgage lender is for your mortgage. Once you have that, you need to do some back-end research to see what the process is to actually get your mortgage tax reassigned. So after digging, we find that this law firm represents Wells Fargo Bank, and they have a pretty deep process. They actually tell us right up front that this process could take 6 to 8 weeks. Now, even though it could take 6 to 8 weeks, it usually takes a little bit less. In this particular case, you want to make sure you submit a complete application. This is where we have our bank and our law firm do all the handiwork for you, so that way you can go on with your everyday life and let this become a legal matter. Now, Wells Fargo charges $750 up front, and they charge a $200 upfront fee. So that right there, they're charging $950. You need to get bank checks and bring them to myself, the bank, the attorney, and have them submit this complete package in order to begin the process. The key is getting this in as soon as possible. You cannot close on your refinance without going through this process and getting approved for the SEMA. You can still close on your refinance, but you won't be able to save the mortgage tax. So in this particular case, you have $950 that you have to pay. Now, Wells Fargo, because they're a little tricky, they also charge a $650 participation in the assignment process, which clearly it's a little bit of a shakedown. So in this case, you're at about, call it $1,500, $1,600 cost. But remember, you're paying $6,600 in tax. So net at the end of the day, you'll save $5,000 by doing this. You got to make sure, again, all this information is filled out appropriately and making sure that it's worth your time. On loan amounts under $200,000 or $250,000, I really don't recommend doing it. It doesn't really make sense in what you're paying in interest, and what you're paying in legal fees over that time aren't going to equate out to making much sense. So if you're going to save $1,000 or $1,500, but you have to wait 6 to 8 weeks, it's not worth it. You're better off passing on the SEMA. So hopefully this educated you a little bit on the SEMA process. It's called a SEMA refinance. However, it's not an actual loan product. A SEMA only has to do with getting New York State and New York City mortgage tax reassigned to save you money. So make sure you know the facts. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Real Estate and Mortgage School 2020 edition.